Hey guys, and happy Friday. So if you are new, my name is Vanessa, and every Friday during this month, October, I have been sharing a Crockpot themed video for Crocktober, which is very popular this month every year online. So I hope you guys have enjoyed all the videos that I have shared so far. I've done kind of like something different every week, and I was going to end just making freezer meals. However, I do not need freezer meals. We've actually been doing a good job cleaning out everything from our fridge and freezer and pantry. I'm going to be filming that coming up, starting a brand new month, ending out the year, getting ready for the holidays. So if you guys are not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. But I went ahead, and these are all freezer friendly. I walk you through how to prep them for your freezer, but I'm cooking all of them. So you guys see the final dish. And I do have 5 different recipes to share with you guys today, or 5 different dinners. So let me go ahead and take you guys down. I was gonna say to my counter, but I've been filming these over the past several weeks. So they're kind of all over the place on pop-up tables. And I think the last one is in here because if you guys don't follow me on Instagram, the kitchen is getting closer and closer to being done. You can see we've got the backsplash, we've got the shelves, I've got the counter, the stove is in, it is not hooked up, so I'm still not able to use it. We do not have the dishwasher just yet, but it is coming along, and the counters are like the main thing. Being able to have the counter space back with feeding 6 people and 4 dogs and all the things has been very, very nice. So let me go ahead and get into these super easy, freezer friendly, and very delicious Crockpot dinners to end out our Crocktober 2021. This freezer meal is definitely lots of variations you can make with this, but it's always a hit in my house. Good old Sloppy Joe's. Now, all of these ingredients, all you have to do is just stick them in a bag in your freezer and they are ready to go. Sometimes if I have Sloppy Joe's on the menu, I will go ahead and double up, make a double batch. However, kitchen, I feel like a broken record, but there's always new people who click on my videos, and I'll get a question or a comment. Why are you in your bedroom filming dinner with dogs behind you rolling around on the floor? That's because my kitchen is not really usable at the moment. So I do not have a stovetop. However, Instant Pot to the rescue. This bad boy does have a saute function, which is just like using your stovetop. So I'm going to use my Instant Pot to brown up and cook my ground beef. I do have 2 pounds here, and if you are new, you don't know my love of onion powder and garlic powder. But if you have been with me for a while, you know anytime I am cooking ground meat, I typically use these 2 seasonings while I'm cooking it just to help with the flavor and the smell. I'm not huge on the scent of raw meat, so I'm going to be using both of these as I cook up my ground beef. So like with most freezer meals, if you're using chicken, you do not need to pre-cook that. You can just dump it in your freezer bag and it is good to go. Some people do the same with the ground beef, but I opt to cook my ground beef. So I am going to be cooking up 2 pounds, like I mentioned, and then all of these other ingredients you can just add to your freezer bag. I am going to be cooking it tonight so you guys can see the finished product. So I have 1 onion I'm going to dice up, 1 green bell pepper. I'm going to use 3 stalks of celery, and then this is just what I have on hand. Normally I do prefer the petite diced tomatoes because, you know, sometimes kids are picky, and the bigger chunks in there, the less likely they are to eat it. However, I am down to my last 1 can of petite diced tomatoes, but I do have regular diced tomatoes. They're just a little bigger. So I'm going to be using 1 of each. But just 2 cans of whatever type of diced tomatoes you have is totally fine. I do have this pasta sauce. I'm not using the entire jar. I'm only going to use about 1.5 cups of the pasta sauce, whatever kind you prefer. I have this on hand, so that is what I am using. And then I'm going to add about 1 tablespoon of W sauce. That's what I like to call this. 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and then 1/2 cup of ketchup. You know what? I'm also going to grab my salt and pepper. I typically add that in as well, and I'll just, you know, put a pinch or 2 each of the salt and pepper in here while everything's cooking. So let me go ahead and get this cooked up, dice up my produce, and then we're just going to dump everything in our crock pot. All right, you're definitely gonna hear dogs in the background now. They are like super playful. This is like the 3rd time I've tried to film. I have everything mixed together in the crock pot. Lid is on, and then I have it on low. I'm gonna cook it all a day. You don't need 8 hours, but it's not gonna hurt anything because the meat is already cooked. If you are putting the raw meat in here, most likely closer to 8 hours on low, but 6 hours is probably gonna be fine. I am going to stir this just occasionally, and then if I feel like, and I'll show you guys at the end of the time when we're about to eat, that there's too much liquid in here, then all you have to do is just turn it on high and then leave the lid off for about 30-45 minutes, but I haven't had to do that yet. So we're gonna go ahead and let this cook on low for 6 to 8 hours. We'll see what time it is when we're finally ready for dinner, but sloppy joes, there's so many different variations and it's just always a hit in my family. Okay, dinner is served. I can only make one plate at a time. So I do have one plate made. Let me know what you guys serve with your sloppy joes. For us, it is always a pickle. Some of my kids don't like pickles, but for those that do, it's just a pickle goes great with sloppy joes. And then some type of French fry. I happen to have these little crowns, so that's what I made up, and a lot of the kids like the Chick-fil-A sauce, so that is what is on this plate. Now, we also love our sloppy joes with cheese. These ones are super sloppy. I did a little bit of a variation this time. Like I said, I make them different almost every time. So this one is a little soupy, but I have a bunch here that I can freeze for later. So see how soupy this is? I kind of just tried to drain as much as I could. I did leave it on, I put it on high with the lid off to help get rid of some of this liquid, but it's not gonna happen in time for dinner. So it is going to be a very, very sloppy joe. The flavor is still fantastic. I already tried a little bit. Here's my setup here. We've got our buns and the Chick-fil-A sauce. I do need to grab the ketchup and the mayo because some of the kids like ketchup and mayo, and then our pickles and our crispy crowns or French fries, whatever we have on hand at the time. And then we do, like I mentioned, like to have cheese with ours. So that's our crock pot, a sloppy joe dinner for tonight. Another just dump and go crock pot freezer meal, but I am gonna go ahead and cook it up. But all you would need to do if you don't wanna have this for dinner tonight and you're just prepping your freezer for upcoming quick dinner nights, you're just gonna take everything that I'm gonna share with you as I put it in my crock pot. You're just gonna toss it into a freezer bag, except for the vegetable broth. You're gonna hold on to this until the day of cooking, as well as the barley. You don't need to freeze that, just have those shelf-stable pantry items ready. But everything else you can go ahead and put in a freezer bag, prep. There's a little bit more prep involved with this one. And the night before you wanna have it, or the morning of, pull it out, let it loosen up a little bit in your bag, dump it in your crock pot and cook it, and dinner will be served. But I'm gonna go ahead and cook this for dinner. It is quite early in the morning, but it takes about 8 hours, and I have an agenda a full agenda today. So let's go ahead and start adding everything into our crock pot. So first, for our garden veggie soup, I am adding in 1 zucchini, and it was fairly large, that I diced up, 2 cans of diced tomatoes, 1 bell pepper, any color is fine. I'm using green, and I did chop it up. About ½ a pound of fresh green beans. I did trim the ends off and then cut them into little bite-sized pieces. 1 onion diced up. I'm also going to throw in 1 pretty big handful of fresh spinach that I just roughly chopped. 1 bay leaf. About a teaspoon of garlic salt. 2 tablespoons of Italian seasoning, 2 tablespoons of honey, and a tablespoon of brown sugar. Okay, adding in my vegetable broth. I'm starting off with just 1 container. I think this will be enough, but about 4 cups. Okay, let's stir this up. I have actually never made a vegetable soup. This is why I wanted to try this recipe instead of just sharing it as a freezer meal. I wanted to go ahead and cook it up, and that way I could let you guys know about it, but I've never put anything sweet in soups like this before. So like you saw, I added the brown sugar and the honey. I found a few different recipes, like there's a Panera copycat recipe. This one's not exactly the same. I think that one called for like pesto and a few other things that I'm not adding, but there's several different garden vegetable soups that have some kind of sweetness factor. So I'm curious to see what that does with this. It looks good. I love fresh vegetables. Like, that's just my go-to soup wise. It's so good. All right, so I gave this a good mix. I'm getting my lid on and I'm going to cook this on low for 8 hours. All right, so I do have 6 minutes left on my 8-hour timer, but that is okay. This is just vegetables. They're definitely done, but I am going to add some barley. So I have this quick pearled barley, and because if you guys have like the ones that are not quick, I could not find those. I would have added it in at the very beginning and let it cook with everything else all day, so it would be more of a true like dump and go crock pot meal. But because I have the quick barley, I am going to add it in now. So I'm just gonna pour in, this is a fairly large box, I'm gonna pour in about half a cup and see how that looks. I'm probably gonna do more like a cup because I know my kids love, like, you know, soups that have like a pasta in it. And this is kind of like a mix between a rice and a pasta. I found this in the rice section in your local grocery store. So just in case you guys have a hard time finding it, but yeah, that looks good once I mixed it all up. Get a little barley in every bite there. So I am going to set my timer back to 30 minutes on low, and that should be all it needs for the barley to cook. All right, another vegetable soup variation that is definitely a hit. I just tried it, my mouth is a little burnt. I didn't wait long enough, let my little spoonful cool, but that hint of sweetness is actually really nice. I enjoy it, and like I mentioned, I've never done that before. I just saw it in a few different recipes, and one of the ones that I was looking at was like a Panera Bread copycat. They have a vegetable soup there. I think it's called like a 10 vegetable and grain soup. I'm not sure, but one of the recipes that I was looking at stated that, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give it a try. So I'm glad I did. It was really good. I did pull out the Parmesan, but I really don't feel like it needs anything else. I think maybe the sweetness might fight with the cheese, so some of the family members might opt to use that, kids especially, but for me, I'm just gonna have it just like this because like I said, it's really, really good, and I do like that little hint of sweetness in there, and I'm a huge fan of zucchini. I just love zucchini in so many different things, so you guys definitely probably have seen me use that a lot in like the comfort foods. I just feel like it's great in any kind of soup, but there we go. Our really easy freezer meal for sure. Just dump everything in there, but also just a super delicious crock pot soup. Tonight for dinner, we are having Mongolian beef, of course, in the crock pot. Yes, these liners are BPA free. You don't have to use a liner. I did have to get rid of a few people in my last crockpot video because obviously they're not fans of liners, but you do you and I will do me. But this is all the ingredients that we have for tonight's dinner. I've got 2 green onions. I'm going to use about a 1/4 cup of these matchstick carrots, or if you want to use regular carrots, you can just cut them up into little strips or shred them. And then for the meat, I'm using this beef for stir fry. I think this works really good. You could also use flank steak and just cut it up into little strips, but this is already done for me, just helps with the prep. And then for the sauce for our Mongolian beef, I'm actually going to double it. So just because we like things really saucy when we're having like mashed potatoes or rice or anything that we want that extra little bit for. So I'm gonna be sharing the measurements that I'm using, but if you don't want it as saucy, more of like a normal, then just half everything. So I've got half a cup of water, so use a 1/4 cup if you do not want to double it. I am going to use half a cup of brown sugar. I might add a little bit more just to make sure that the sauce still tastes good, but I don't want it to be too sweet. And then I'm gonna use about a cup of soy sauce, 4 to 5 cloves of garlic. It just depends on how big they are once I get them out. And then as far as ginger, I'm only gonna use about maybe a half a teaspoon. This is a squeeze tube, so I'm just gonna squeeze it out. And however much comes out and whatever looks good, that's what I'm going to go with. So let's go ahead and just dump everything in our crock pot. I am gonna have to dice the green onions and the garlic, but other than that, we're just getting everything in here so we can start it cooking. There's no getting around noises in the background today. It's the weekend. So kids, cleaning, all the things. But I've got all my ingredients in here. I'm just going to give it a stir, kind of break apart this meat because it is sticking together a little bit. All right, time to get the lid on. And depending on what time you want to eat dinner, you can cook this on high. Oops, there we go. You can cook it on high for 2 to 3 or low for 4 to 5. I'm gonna go ahead and put it on 4.5 and then I will check it, but it should be good to go. Okay, it's actually been on like keep warm for a good 30 minutes because we just were not ready for dinner, but it is definitely done and you see how saucy it is. If I had a stovetop, I would add a little cornstarch slurry to this and thicken it up a bit, but that is okay. You know what? I could still do it here, but it's been on keep warm for so long that it's not super like piping hot anymore. So it just wouldn't work the same. But if you guys can catch it before it goes on keep warm, add that little cornstarch and water mixture and you can thicken it up. But like I said, we're just going with it for tonight. Okay, so this is really good over rice, and typically when I do dishes like this, I serve it with broccoli on the side. It just seems to go great. However, we are using cauliflower rice for dinner tonight. I don't think my kids have ever tried this before, so I'm not sure. Another reason why I made like extra sauce so I could really just season the cauliflower rice up. So because we are using the cauliflower rice, I did not make any broccoli, but it smells super good. And this kind of dish is typically right up my family's alley. Okay, it is time for me to get dinner started, and like with all the recipes I am sharing with you today, this is a super easy freezer meal. All you have to do is put 2 to 4 chicken breasts in a freezer bag with 1 can of Rotel, and then if you guys buy the individual packets, just 1 packet of taco seasoning is plenty, or I just kind of eyeball it. Maybe a tablespoon or 2. This brand is a little on the extra spicy side, so I tend to go less because I'm not a huge fan of super spicy stuff, whereas half of my family is. But the other half, I gotta tone it down just a little bit. So just dump all of your ingredients in a freezer bag and you can have dinner super easy, ready on the fly when you need it. Or if you're, you know, a little bit more prepared and you've got some extra time, I can go ahead and just throw this in the crock pot. I am not using a liner today because I am going to be shredding up my chicken and I don't really want to be shredding it with a bag and a liner in here, you know? So, like I mentioned, all of this is just gonna get dumped in the crock pot. All right, I've got my ingredients in there, the Rotel, the chicken, and the taco seasoning. Got my lid on, and I'm going to cook this on low for 8 hours. My chicken is still about half frozen, so it might need to go a little bit longer, but probably not. I think 8 hours will be good. It's not super large chicken or anything like that. So in my excitement to finish up dinner, apparently I'm super excited for Taco Tuesday. I forgot to hit the record button. But super easy if you have a hand mixer to shred your chicken. It takes literally seconds and that's it. So our taco meat is shredded and we're probably gonna serve this a variety of ways over nachos. Sounds really good because we have a lot of tortilla chips. Also, yeah, it's still super hot. Also in quesadilla form, which is one of my kiddos' favorite. And I think we have a couple taco shells as well, but so many different varieties. And again, this is just super easy to throw in the crock pot. Also in a freezer bag, double up. Dang, I should have done that. I should have took out extra chicken so I could go ahead and make one for the freezer and one for dinner tonight. But regardless, tried and true, super easy taco chicken. It is time to get another dinner going, and I'm not sure if this is the first video you guys are seeing with the new countertop. The kitchen is not done completely yet. Still have the backsplash and the floating shelves to put on. But depending on when things get done and my filming schedule, you might have already seen the backsplash. Who knows? But tonight is another super easy crock pot meal that is also very freezer friendly. So these are the only ingredients I'm going to be using. You could use chicken breast. I like to just dice up or cut into little bite-sized pieces chicken tenders. But you could also use a chicken breast, toss it in there and just shred it. That's completely fine as well. So I've got 1 package of that. I do have some broccoli, about 2 cups. I'm just gonna toss in this entire steamable bag. I am not going to be using all of this Velveeta, maybe about half of this package. It's 16 ounces, and I'm gonna cube that up so it melts easier. 1 can of cream of chicken, some paprika, and some W sauce, as well as this entire bag of baby red potatoes that I'm going to slice up. So as far as if you guys wanted to prep this for a freezer meal, put everything in your bag except for the Velveeta and the potatoes. You could freeze potatoes. I'm just not a huge fan. You're gonna wanna blanch them first. There's an extra long process. So I just like to leave these on the side, pick them up when I know I'm gonna be making this, or potatoes last a fairly long time in the pantry. And of course this is shelf stable, so you don't need to prep anything with that. But everything else you can just throw into a freezer bag. But I am cooking this up for you guys. So I'm going to just toss all of this into my crock pot. Oh, the lighting is so much better being able to film in the kitchen. Okay, I have the potatoes that I just sliced up. I left the skin on. You could totally peel them if you want. And then I diced up my chicken. Now I am adding in the broccoli. That has lots of freezer burn, but that's okay. And this is a 16-ounce bag. All right, I know cream of soups are not very appetizing looking, but they do have a lot of flavor. Feel free to substitute if you want something else. I'm going to just sprinkle the top with the paprika. I went over around about 2 times, I guess. I'm going to add in about a tablespoon of W sauce. Again, just sprinkling over the top. Measurements are very forgiving when you're just cooking. In baking, you gotta be a little bit more exact, but making meals, you don't have to be that strict. Okay, I added the cheese on top. I ended up using a little more than half. I did half at first and I was like, you know what? This needs more cheese. So I just added some more cheese. I'm getting my lid on and I'm going to cook this on low for 6 hours. All right, so it has been about 2 hours, oops. And I'm just gonna give this a good stir now that the cheese has melted. Oh, it smells good. And that way everything is getting incorporated and not just like the seasoning and stuff. It's not just sitting on the top. Okay, lid back on, and I might come back and stir it one more time, but it's got 4 more hours of cooking time left. All right, time is up. Dinner is served. This is definitely, I think I've mentioned it before, but not all Crock-Pot meals look super scrumptious, but as long as you've got the flavor in there, it tastes really good. Now, I already pulled some out and I was getting it ready, and normally I put sour cream on this. It just really helps with the creamy factor, and I like it with the Velveeta and then a little salt and pepper. But as I was going through my fridge, we have no sour cream, so I am a little bummed because I do feel like adding sour cream to this definitely takes it up a notch. But that's okay. We're still gonna eat it. It'll still be good. It just won't be extra, you know? So here is our Crock-Pot dinner that is super easy, like I already mentioned in the beginning, to throw in a freezer bag so you have it on hand. But this is what we're eating for dinner tonight. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed those. If you make anything, tag me over on Instagram with a picture of your final product. I would love to see you guys cooking these dishes in your own homes. I hope you're having a fantastic day and your weekend is great as well. Give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed Crocktober this year, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.